Design can convince you that a product that isn't clean or pure is, in fact, clean and pure. That a mass market product is an artisanal product. That a basic product has fine quality. It's like a designer hands the consumer a pair of glasses and says, "Here, see it in this way." How powerful is that? But here's the catch. We have this incredibly powerful tool, design, right? And we hand it over to designers who have been told that their primary concern is to make things look as good as possible. Welcome to Design Bigger, the podcast for designers and studios ready to think bigger, design bigger brands, and land bigger projects. I'm Nika Warland, an ex-big agency brand strategy director who took her blue-chip client expertise and built a freelance career helping independent agencies around the globe. This is the podcast where I share the tricks of the trade for lean design thinking to set you up as a world-class creative talent. As a translator between business and creatives, I'll show you how to speak client, hack top agency frameworks, and think like the best studios out there. If you're ready to design bigger, hit subscribe and let's get started. Hello, designers. Your host, Nika, here, and today I want to talk about the hidden power of commercial design. And it's not the one you're probably thinking about. We all know design is powerful. We talk about how influential beauty is. But brand design isn't just about beauty or effectiveness or differentiation. And designers aren't just artists who make it look good. I'm talking about the real power of design, the subliminal conviction, the ability of design to present a product in a way that makes the consumer choose. And the high price consumers pay for design when designers think like artists and not like strategists. You might be thinking, that sounds like an exaggeration, Nika, but trust me, it's not. And here's a story to back it up. So I was once in a meeting with a major international brand that most of you probably had at least once in your life. And the client said, just having nature in our name gives us so much freedom. No matter what we do, people assume that we're natural, we're healthy. And their packaging design sold the story of natural health. It had lush landscapes, it had vibrant greens, it had words that evoked nature and purity. So when you're standing in a supermarket aisle on a Tuesday night looking for a healthy option of the product, you're likely to pick up their pack. It looks so wholesome. It has nature in the name. And yet the ingredient lists on the back and the nutrition label tell a very different story. So what I mean is that as a brand, you might not be able, literally legally, to say certain things, and yet through design, you can communicate them. Design can convince you that a product that isn't clean or pure is, in fact, clean and pure. That a mass market product is an artisanal product. That a basic product has fine quality. It's like a designer hands the consumer a pair of glasses and says, "Here, see it in this way." How powerful is that? But here's the catch. We have this incredibly powerful tool, design, right? And we hand it over to designers who have been told that their primary concern is to make things look as good as possible. In big agencies that I used to work for, in London, New York, LA, Vancouver, you have layers of account managers and strategists and designers checking the brief. The client might come in and say, "We've reduced sugar by 5%. We want to redesign the whole pack to communicate this." A strategist has the time to catch that and say, that doesn't sound like a considerable enough of a change, and redesigning the whole pack would be misleading. Let's focus on a different proposition. But outside those big agencies, there's a whole world of independent studios without strategists or account people, where designers are working directly with clients. And these talented, educated, incredibly skilled designers crafting beautiful, award-winning designs, they don't have the time, the resource, or training to question a brief. And if their client says, "We reduced the sugar content by 5%. Can you make the pack look more like a light product?" And those designers translate it into visuals, it becomes the product. And then the consumer walks into the store, she sees reduced sugar claim and the new color palette that looks so light and good for you, and she thinks, "Great, I'll get that. It's so much healthier for me now." 99% of people don't read the back of the pack. By the way, because I work in marketing, I start with the back of pack always. Like, I'm paranoid this way. The ingredient list, the nutrition label, the producer information are the real tellers. And it's the same outside of the CPG category, which stands for consumer packaged goods. You always want to read the small print. So designers who work directly with clients without the buffer of fact checkers and strategists often take direction from clients who may exaggerate the benefits or downplay the drawbacks and gloss over the true impact of their products. These designers pour their heart and soul and countless billable hours into making the work look beautiful, but they're not paid to question the brief that keeps them employed. So here's my question. How is that we live in a world where people with this insane power, designers, who can make people believe their eyes over facts, aren't given the commercial education they need to use that power responsibly? It's wild, right? When you think about it now. People trust what they see more than what they hear or read. Design speaks directly to the subconscious, shaping perceptions in a way we don't always realize. It taps into System 1 thinking, the part of the brain that operates on autopilot, that's fast, automatic, and driven by instinct, bypassing the more deliberate System 2 thinking, which makes logical decisions and is slow, thoughtful, and requires effort to process information. Design can evoke a thought and plant a message that legally brands can't even say out loud. We buy products that are bad for us because their design bypasses our logical System 2 thinking, our consciousness, and goes straight to the unconscious. And if it looks good, it must be good, right? Look, I'm a sucker for good design myself. If something doesn't look good, I'm not going to buy it. But I want designers to go beyond kerning and color palettes and design systems. I want designers everywhere to think differently. I want them to question the end result. Greenwashing is a massive issue, and thankfully it's becoming a major conversation in the design world right now. But misleading design goes far beyond sustainability claims. Think pseudoscience in wellness, where clinical design creates an illusion of efficacy. Or think healthwashing in food, where minimalist packaging and buzzwords like natural or gluten-free imply health benefits even when the product is loaded with unwanted ingredients. Think portion and ingredient distortion on packaging, making it look like there is more in the bag than there truly is, the oldest trick of them all. Or ethical illusions on animal products, where idyllic imagery suggests humane practices that don't exist. Then there is premiumization through packaging, when a fancier label makes you believe the product is superior, even when it's nearly identical to the cheaper option. And let's not forget the endless wave of self-care products flooding the market right now, many of which are just repackaged indulgence dressed up as wellness. Design is often a tool of deception. So I want designers to have the confidence to pause and ask, is this brief true? Let me tell you a story. I recently worked on a project for a company that makes meat products. They were working hard to improve animal welfare standards, and I was very excited. They were the first company of their kind to pass a new certification, and I was genuinely proud of them. But then it came time to craft the messaging for packaging and advertising, and I wanted to be absolutely certain that what I was saying was true. So I picked up a phone and I actually called the guy who helped create this certification years ago. He was driving when I reached him and I said, I just need 15 minutes to understand this properly. And he was so kind and he explained that the certification had 8 levels and that competitors who proudly were talking about their efforts, they were at the top level 8. But my client, they had just passed the entry level 1. And here's the truth. They were doing better than 99% of the industry, but they still weren't treating animals humanely. No free-range pigs, just the bare minimum required to not be labeled evil. Suddenly, I was in a pickle. I had originally proposed the positioning that leaned into this more sustainable, humane option, but now I couldn't stand behind it. So I did what I think was the right thing. I backtracked and I told the client, we can't claim this yet. Let's focus on flavor for now. And in a few years, as you continue improving, we can revisit this and tell the story when it's real. And here's the thing. What I didn't require a degree in brand strategy. Didn't take an MBA or certification in sustainability. It didn't take a decade in advertising. It just required a mindset that recognizes design as an incredibly powerful and strategic tool. Because if you subliminally communicate that a brand is humane or sustainable or healthy, people will believe you, even if you can't legally put that claim on the front of the pack. And so we didn't. The client was still happy. We landed on a message that felt real and true. So what can designers do? It starts with just asking questions. Not just, how can I make this look better? But what story am I telling? And if that story is true, right now you might be thinking, well, what if I lose my client? I can't afford to be picky right now. Do I need to turn down work? Well, sometimes it might feel like that, and I do turn down work sometimes, but more often than not, it's about finding a different angle, one that's still truthful and resonates with the consumer. Everyone knows Coke isn't great for your health or the planet, but if you focus on how a little indulgence never hurt anyone, you're not misleading anyone. There's always a way to craft a creative solution, even with the most challenging clients. One time, I worked with a skincare company, and they were great. They had built a loyal following because their founder was an incredible esthetician who made a real impact on people's lives. She helped people feel better and transform their skin. And as they grew, they reached out for help with taking the next step in their brand. But they faced a dilemma. They didn't want to contribute more plastic to the world, but their skincare needed to come in sealed containers. So their initial idea was to switch to glass, thinking it would be a more sustainable option. However, I had to point out that glass isn't as widely recyclable as people assume. It's heavier to ship and requires significantly more energy to produce. So while it might look more sustainable in an ad or on a website, in practice, it's not the most effective choice. They were also interested in using a more eco-friendly plastic, but all manufacturers had high minimum order quantities that they couldn't meet due to their small production runs. So I proposed an alternative. Let's stick with plastic, but donate a portion of the profits to an organization focused on reducing plastic pollution or offsetting their carbon footprint. It wasn't a perfect solution, and carbon offsets are a controversial topic in 2025, but it was a realistic, practical strategy they could implement immediately. Again, I'm not a sustainability consultant. I had to research the options and educate myself, but I had a mindset of asking questions. What is the real impact of what we're designing? Who does it affect? What's the long-term cost? How can my work benefit the client and the consumer? As Steve Jobs said, design is not how things look, it's how things work. Designers aren't here to just make things look pretty. They're shaping how the world operates. And with that power comes a big responsibility to make informed and thoughtful decisions. Most design and art schools currently focus on the looks and creativity. I'm starting to see brand strategy and design strategy pop up on the curriculums of famous schools. Parsons School of Design has a course on brand strategy and visual identity, and also design thinking and business strategy. Goldsmiths in London have cultural branding and strategy, so it's happening. In the meantime, for everyone who has graduated some time ago, you can start with a mindset. So take your artist hat off and put your strategist hat on. You're helping to influence what people put in their bodies, on their skin, in their homes. You're someone with immense power. So think beyond just aesthetics and design systems. You've been officially promoted to a legal advisor, a sustainability consultant, and a therapist all in one. I'll leave you with one more story. I used to work with Unilever a lot. Being such a massive global company, they weren't perfect. In fact, they're actually one of the top 5 global plastic polluters, right alongside some of my other old clients like PepsiCo and Nestle. Despite that, I actually always enjoyed working with them because they were genuinely working toward improvement, and their briefs were always very transparent. And they never tried to pretend to be something they weren't, instead focusing on where they could actually add real value. One time during a brand purpose workshop for Domestos, which is a European toilet cleaner brand, I even cried when they shared their mission to provide clean and safe toilets to 100 million people by 2030. You wouldn't believe how many people in the world still don't have access to something so basic. Anyway, years after working with them, I found out that the dishwasher pods they and every single competitor used were actually made of plastic that released microplastics into the water when they dissolve. I thought I had done my due diligence and trusted the client to provide all the information, but even the brand managers weren't fully aware of how the pod technology worked. So what I mean is, even when you think you've done everything right, the commercial system we are working in is deeply flawed, right? No matter how hard we try, it's easy to miss these things and not fully understand the problems we might be contributing to. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't try. We can make better choices and nudge the system in the right direction, even if it feels slow and imperfect. Real change takes time. But if we start asking better questions now, maybe our kids, when they're grown, will live in a world where choosing better is easier. And at the very least, we'll be able to say that we did what we could. So you're probably thinking, whoa, Nika, I thought you'd be talking about frameworks to make design more powerful or something. But here's the thing. Designers are often pigeonholed into the role of artists, and I believe you're so much more than that. So often I hear people say designers don't read creative briefs, like keep it simple for them, don't overwhelm them with too much information. Or they have to defend themselves, proving that they're not Mac monkeys, which is such an offensive term. I want you to know that I believe in your ability to think strategically. I want to inspire you to throw that imposter syndrome out of the window, believe that you can do strategy, ask non-design related questions, think bigger, and design a more transparent world for all of us. Quite a small ask. Anyway, I'll leave you with that, my friends. If you want to chat about this, you can always DM me on Instagram at Nika Warland. And if you want to start your journey into strategic thinking, join the waitlist for my upcoming webinar, Fast Track Brand Strategy Blueprint for Designers, where I'll share the framework I use at independent agencies and with freelance designers that helps you zoom out, ask strategic questions confidently, and see the bigger picture. It leads to better creative and better client relationships as well. So head to Nika Warland and I'll drop the link in the show notes as well. Until next time, go create something beautiful, and remember, the best creatives are always strategic.